Hello everyone and welcome to 1299 EDN Educational Technologies for Teaching and Learning. My name is Brock Grant and I will be your guide throughout these next 12 weeks to help sort of reinforce your knowledge and understanding of technology and how that can support you in raising the next generation of professionals. So a little bit about me. I am a current lecturer and course convener at Griffith College, and I currently teach in a couple of different areas. I teach in sort of health science, nursing, and of course, education. I've always had a deep passion and enthusiasm for technology and sort of tweaking with things and trying to improve and make things more efficient, I guess you would say. And essentially what I'm going to be trying to do is impart some of that passion and knowledge that I've gained over my years as a professional educator to you. And hopefully sort of you'll be able to take that on board when teaching our new students. And it's important to keep in mind of just what learning is. It's not only the fact that you're learning something new. It is also the process of updating or modifying or improving a current skill set that you may already have. So I guess a good place to start is, what is ICT? So ICT has been sort of floating around the educational space for many, many years now, and it's gone by many different names. It's gone by ICT, so Information, Communication and Technologies. It's also called ICT Pedagogy, Digital Pedagogy, and 21st Century Teaching. But ultimately, guys, ICT is entirely dependent on one big thing: pedagogy. You could have the greatest technology in the world. It means nothing if you do not employ good pedagogy, okay? A tool is only as good as the hands that wield it, okay? And that will be your big challenge, is to take different technology and be able to adapt or wield it or change it to suit what you need it to do in terms of communicating and teaching your audience, your specialized area. Now in 1299 EDN, a big focus for us will be on the ICT capabilities, not specifically the digital technology. We may dabble in some sort of specific examples when the need arises, but we will be focusing mainly on that capability. So I guess a good thing to bring up now is, what is the difference between, say, ICT capability versus a digital technology? An ICT is essentially, how can you take a technology to be able to promote, improve, or achieve a learning outcome. So if you've got the stock standard, say, we go back 50 or 70 years into the classroom, how could you change or improve that using technology? Now you'll notice I haven't specified any kind of subject area. I did not say how we could improve, say, the sciences or chemistry or physical education or history or English. And it's not subject specific. Okay, it is a more broad term in terms of how you can integrate technology to improve student learning. Digital technologies, on the other hand, is specific. So in this course, my goal here is to essentially give you the foundations. I want to give you the basis of utilizing technology with good pedagogy so that you will be able to take that knowledge and individualize it and customize it to teach your desired area. So here we have an excellent infographic by the Digital Technologies Hub. It really gives a good contrast between ICT and digital technologies. So we can see here, presentation tools or how to manage your files, looking at sort of digital media, online communication. These are all excellent examples of ICT. But you'll notice that using presentation tools like, say, PowerPoint or Prezi or something like that, online communication, these are not specific to one area. You could use these regardless of the subject material. Whereas if we compare the digital technologies over here, we can see these are very specific, like automation, robotics, programming, user interface and design, that sort of stuff. They're very specific and individualized subject areas. Now, ICT is embedded within the Australian curriculum, which is incredibly important. So we have two main areas here within the Australian curriculum. We've got our curriculum domains. These are the main sort of subject areas. So English, math, science, that sort of thing. And then we have our general capabilities. These are essentially the basis. These are the foundations that reinforce and support the curriculum domains. So what we see here, if we're looking at these general capabilities here, is that they are covered in every single one of these subject areas. Things like literacy, numeracy, critical and creative thinking, ethical behavior, and of course, as we can see down there, ICT capability. Okay, so this is a critical part of the general capabilities, and all of those 7 general capabilities will reinforce and support our curriculum. Now, why do we have these general capabilities? What is their point? The big thing is that we don't want to just be regurgitating information to students. There's just no point. We need to teach them to be critical thinkers. We need to teach them to be adaptable, to be able to critically analyze and interpret information and process it and utilize it in a way that's productive and useful. And that's what these general capabilities do, okay? They allow us to sort of support and promote successful, confident, and creative learners. Now, if we take our general capability for ICT, we can break it down into 5 main areas. So applying social and ethical protocols and practices, managing and operating ICT, whilst also looking at investigating with ICT, communicating with ICT, and creating with ICT. Now, in this course, your second assignment will be focused on cyberbullying, and you will be employing a lot of these general capabilities in that assignment. So, for example, applying social and ethical protocols and practice is incredibly relevant when we're looking at cyberbullying. And a part of the assignment will be you designing and creating resources that will investigate and communicate and create with ICT. So here we have a wonderful breakdown from the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority. And what this does is it's essentially a ICT learning continuum to allow us to sort of measure the development of ICT capabilities in our students. So what we can see here is like applying that social and ethical protocols and investigating with ICT. This is a really good starting point, especially for your second assignment, which is of course the biggest assignment within this course. This is a good starting point to see what you should be aiming for in terms of designing and setting those resources and lesson plans for your students. So in the assessment, it is designed around a cohort of a grade 7. So you'll be looking at sort of in between a level 4 and a level 5. So for instance, if we're looking here at around sort of a level 4 and level 5, and we are wishing to investigate with ICT, we can see a great one here is like locate, retrieve, and generate information using search engines and simple search functions, and classify information in a meaningful way. This is obviously incredibly important because we need students to be able to investigate with ICT. How are they going to acquire this information and ensure that that information is not only from a reliable source, but is also relevant? Now, another example here with, say, creating with ICT elements is to use ICT effectively to record ideas and represent thinking, plans, and plan solutions. A really good example here would be, say, using a infographic or something like that to be able to take a series of information that, say, you want to distribute to parents or guardians of these students to effectively communicate to them. Here is sort of cyberbullying, and here are some strategies to overcome it. So this is a very good resource. This will also be on the Moodle page if you'd like to have a closer look. This is a great way to sort of really dig further into these general capabilities within ICT. So again, looking at that table, I really want you to start asking the questions of, in a classroom setting, how could you promote your students to investigate using ICT, to communicate safely using ICT, and to create with ICT? And that's going to be the cornerstone of your second assignment. But it's also a critical point in terms of your overall lesson design and implementing that in your future lessons. Now, one of the readings that has been assigned to you this week is looking at Gonski's direction with ICT. So Gonski is a very widely renowned educational specialist who's done a lot of publications in this area. And essentially in 2018, the Australian government commissioned Gonski to do an investigation in how we can better sort of support our students and gain a higher degree of learning outcomes. Now, this reading, obviously this paper is quite huge. We only want you to look at the sort of the key summary page. But one of the key points that Gonski did bring up was looking at these general capabilities. Having a really strong foundation of general capabilities within our students is the basis of a good educational system, and that it needs to be much more prominent and much more in the forefront of our educational design. So a big thing here is that we need to really shift from this just raw information or raw retention. There's no point in having, students focus solely on just memorization. It's not going to get us anywhere. We really need to promote and focus with our students on how we can encourage critical thinking. So how can they take this information and not just memorize it, but how can they utilize it? How can they adapt it to serve a purpose or to solve a problem? So a big reason too why this is such a priority is there has been huge shifts in obviously the job market and the balance and the change in terms of proficiency level and knowledge and understanding needed. So the sort of requirements for everyday jobs now are vastly different than what they were 30 years ago. There is a greater underpinning of technology understanding and knowledge and utilization in all aspects of the workforce. So this means the school leavers need to really focus on key skills that we can't just have easily replicated by machines. So for instance, in say math, it's all well and good to take an equation, solve it and spit out a number. But that's not enough, because an Excel spreadsheet can do that. A calculator can do that. A computer can do that. What we need to do is take it that next level up. It's not enough to be able to just process these numbers. We need to then understand the numbers. What are these numbers telling you? What is the meaning behind these numbers? And how can we utilize that in the future? That is far more important, and again, relies upon these general capabilities and skills that are not subject specific. Again, things like critical thinking. So when looking at focusing on our ICT and preparing our generation of students for a workforce that may not even exist yet, how are they able to develop their learning skills, to become lifelong learners? How are they able to self-regulate their learning? So I want you to take a moment and reflect on this. How do you learn? How do you sort of acquire information? What sources do you use? And how do you overcome a particular hurdle or challenge in your learning? So if you're trying to learn or study something and you get stuck and you just don't understand it, what do? What techniques do you employ to help you get over that hurdle? And then I want you to take that sort of line of thinking another step forward. So if you encounter a problem in your learning, how do you overcome it? And then how can you help teach your students to overcome and adapt to any problems or hurdles in their own learning? And ultimately what that will do, guys, is create some confident and resilient learners who are then able to leave school and join the workforce being critical thinkers and independent learners. So guys, that was our first video for today. What I want you to do in the middle page under week 1, we've got a little Padlet there. I want you to post some of these responses. I want you to ask yourself the question, what ICT capabilities was most evident when you went through school? And I also want you to think up of an example that can sort of outline the difference between the ICT general capabilities and digital technologies. So guys, thank you for joining me today. I'll see you in the next video.